In the following video, we're going to examine how to use the factoring technique of the sum of two cubes. So if we look at the terms, we have the sum of two cubes. Remember, sum means that we are adding, and two cubes means you're adding two perfect cubes. We know what perfect squares are. 1 squared is 1, 2 squared is 4, and so on and so on. Perfect cubes are the cube of those numbers. 1 cubed is 1, 2 cubed is 8, 3 cubed is 27. We have 4 cubed is 64. We have 5 cubed as 125. And we have 6 cubed as 216. Now, my advice is you should have at least the first 6 perfect cubes memorized. And the reason why you should have them memorized is when I give you an expression that needs factored, if I tell you, hey, you have x cubed plus 125, when you see the number 125, your mind knows that's a perfect cube. And so it's important that you at least know what the first 6 perfect cubes are. And that way, if you see a number, I see the number 8, I know it's a perfect cube. And so I know, hey, might be able to apply my sum of two cubes factoring technique. So let's examine the formula for it. If you have the sum, you're adding two perfect cubes, a cubed and b cubed. Then it factors into the binomial a plus b. So the cube root of a plus the cube root of b. And then you have a squared minus a times b plus b squared. And so when we're factoring out the sum of two cubes, this is the process that we want to try and use. We want to try and always look for a GCF first. This is crucial. This is no matter what expression you're given, you always, always, always look to see, is there a GCF? And then find the base numbers. And what the base numbers are is referring to find the cube roots. And we say base numbers because if you were to think back when we learned in Algebra 1 about numbers and exponents, we have a number and we have an exponent. B is the exponent. We refer to A as the base for it. So when I say find the base numbers, you're trying to find out what number cubed gives you that. So we're trying to find the cube roots of each term. And then use those base numbers in the formula itself. And so I have my formula. Let's copy it. And I'm going to bring it down here to use it with this walkthrough example. So I want to factor a cubed plus 27. The first thing, is there a GCF? And so is there a GCF between a cubed and 27? There is not. And so the next thing I want to find out is, what are the base numbers for this expression? So I'm going to mark those base numbers in. So, what is the cube root of a cubed? And that's a. What's the cube root of 27? And that's 3. And so what happens is I just plug in my a here, I plug in my 3 here. And so I have my formula. I have a plus b. And so I'm going to use my cube roots. So a plus 3, parentheses, the variable squared, so a squared, minus, and you're subtracting a times b. So I'm subtracting a times 3, which is 3a. So I'm subtracting 3a. You just multiply your two roots together. That's what that says, multiply the two cube roots together, plus b squared. And so we're adding our 3 squared, and 3 squared is 9. And so the sum of two cubes for a cubed plus 27 factors into the quantity a plus 3 times the quantity a squared minus 3a plus 9. So let's try this in a couple more examples. Here's our formula again, and we're going to try and take and use the sum of two cubes to factor 8y cubed plus 125. Again, this is why it's important to have the first 6 perfect cubes memorized. So if I take a look, again, I want to find my cube roots first. Well, the cube root of 8 is 2. The cube root of y cubed is y. And the cube root of 125 is 5. And so my a in the formula is 2y, and my b in the formula is 5. And so now we just plug those in. So first, the parentheses is a plus b, so I'm going to have 2y plus 5. And then you're doing a squared. So what you want to do is you want to square your a value. I want to square 2y, and so what happens is you square the 2, which gives you 4, and you square the y, which gives you y squared. And then I have minus a times b. And so what you do is you just multiply the a and the b together. You just multiply your a of 2y and your b of 5 together, and I'm going to have minus 10y plus b squared. And so my b is 5, and so plus 5 squared, which is 25. And so the factored form using the sum of two cubes technique for 8y cubed plus 125 is the quantity 2y plus 5 times the quantity 4y squared minus 10y plus 25. Let's try it in this one. Again, let's go through all of the steps. The first thing you always want to do when factoring is you want to check and see, is there anything in common between them? So is there a GCF between 216 and 64? So let's take a look. What number goes into 64 that also goes into 216? Now we can do our whole prime factorization of each number if we want. I mean, I could break 64 down into all of its prime factors, 8 times 8. 8 is 2 times 2 times 2. So then really, if I want 64, there are 6 2's being multiplied. And if I want 216 broken down, 216 is 4 times 54. Neither of those are prime, so 4 is 2 and 2. 54 is 9 and 6, which 9 is 3 and 3, and 6 is 2 and 3. And so now I want to look at what do they have in common. And so I see the 216 has 1, 2, 3 2's, and so does the 64. Now the 216 also has 3 3's, which they do not have here. And so 2 times 2 times 2 is 8. So the GCF of, and this is just without trying numbers in the calculator, actually showing the prime factorization, the GCF of these two numbers is 8. So if I pull out an 8, I'm going to get 8t cubed plus 27. And now I can apply my sum of two cubes factoring technique to this problem. So the cube root of 8 is 2, and the cube root of t cubed is t. The cube root of 27 is 3, and so that means my a is 2t and my b is 3. And so we plug in the formula. Now what you're going to do is you're going to keep that GCF. You're just going to carry it down. And then use the formula. A plus b. So 2t plus 3. And then you have a squared. And so if we square a, you're going to get 2 squared is 4. And then t squared. Minus a times b. And so 2t times 3 is 6t plus b squared. B is 3. So 3 squared is 9. And what I see is I have for my answer 8 times the quantity 2t plus 3 times the quantity 4t squared minus 6t plus 9 is the factored form using both the GCF technique and the sum of two cubes to simplify and factor 64t cubed plus 216. So always remember, you have to apply all your factoring techniques for these. Go through the thought process of, does it have a GCF? And then look at what remains if there is one to figure out what technique to use from there.